So you wanna be a picture book writer, then you gotta write picture books. And you're gonna need a bucket load of bright ideas for titles, plots, and hooks. If you're partial to prose or you're raring to rhyme, then repeat after me, it's a challenge, but I'm gonna tackle each story 1 month at a time with 12 by 12.
To set the groundwork, let's define a quiet picture book. And the first thing we're going to do to define that is talk about not so quiet picture books. These are loud picture books. The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors. If you guys have read this, I read it to my kids in their 2nd grade classroom as a read aloud. It makes a great read aloud. It's funny, it's wacky, there's action, there's adventure. It's just out there. It's high concept. We have stories like The Very Impatient Caterpillar, where there's this caterpillar who wants to come out of his cocoon and be ready and is interrupting and all these speech bubbles. And then we Battle the Butts, a book about butts, right? These are not quiet. This is not what we're talking about when we're talking about a quiet picture book. What we are talking about are things like The Rabbit Listened. So I took these descriptions from the Amazon page, and I'm just going to read it to give you guys a sense if you're not familiar with this book. So it says, when something sad happens, Taylor doesn't know where to turn. All the animals are sure they have the answer. The chicken wants to talk it out, but Taylor doesn't feel like chatting. The bear thinks Taylor should get angry, but that's not quite right either. One by one, the animals try to tell Taylor how to act, and one by one, they fail to offer comfort. Then the rabbit arrives. All the rabbit does is listen, which is just what Taylor needs. So if you think about this book, it's talking about feeling, it's talking about emotion. The colors and illustrations are soft. We're talking about trying to find comfort. We're snuggling a rabbit. It just gives you that warm, soft, gentle feeling. Okay, so that's one great example. And I actually use this, I'll show my query letter later, but I did use this as a comp for It Will Be Okay. Another one, Eyes That Kiss in the Corners. A young Asian girl notices that her eyes look different from her peers. They have big round eyes and long lashes. She realizes that her eyes are like her mother's, her grandmother's, and her little sister's. And then listen to this language. They have eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea, crinkle into crescent moons, and are filled with stories of the past and hope for the future. So another thing we're going to find in quiet picture books is a real big focus on language. Glow like warm tea, crinkle, alliteration, crinkle into crescent moons. So you can use things like alliteration, onomatopoeia, softer words like hush and swish instead of bang, pow, ouch, those louder onomatopoeia words. So this is going to be full of emotion. It's also going to be a little bit more inward focus. This is a story about a girl who is comparing herself to others. And as it says here, she's looking at the path to self-love and empowerment. So again, it's very emotional. Not a lot happens in the story, but it is powerful. It is beautiful. It is all inward focusing. And as you guys know, this is a #1 New York Times best-selling book. And I can see there's also the companion book, Eyes That Speak to the Stars. Okay, so she made another one for that. Okay, and then let's talk about another quiet picture book. This is one I just discovered recently doing research for this webinar, and it's called Hum and Swish, written and illustrated by Matt Myers. It's a glorious summer day at the shore, and all Jamie wants is to finish her art project in the sand. A little time to herself is all she needs. But everyone around keeps asking her pesky questions she doesn't know how to answer. What are you making? Aren't you clever? Jamie does her best to tune it all out and focus on her creation until she finds a like-minded friend who's as happy to work quietly as she is. And I'm going to show a little bit about this. I don't have it online, but I'm just going to go on a little bit of a whim and read a little bit. Jamie and the sea are friends. Jamie hums. The waves swish. So she's on a beach, okay? I'm not going to read it all. But she's on a beach. People come and ask her questions. She's on a beach. What I'm trying to show here is there's not a lot of change in setting. In a quiet picture book, you're not having your characters often move around a lot. They're not going from place to place like in The Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors, where they're in mom's office in the backyard and there's a lot of movement. It can be very focused and still and in one close, comfortable location. So a few elements of a quiet picture book. There's not a lot of action. That doesn't mean there's not a story arc. There's just not a lot of physical action. And we'll talk about how to get there. There is more of an internal plot over an external plot. If you think about the old adage of stories, used to be said man versus man, so let's say person versus person. This is person versus themselves, really. It's a story where they're looking inward, they're maybe thinking about themselves, they're thinking about emotions, or maybe it's a connection to another character, but there's not a lot of loud external action plot. The obstacles are very, I don't want to say small, because overcoming anxiety, and I'll speak from experience, is really big deal. So they're not small external plots, they're just more inward focused. The biggest one, I think, is the focus is on the emotion over the action. And then the language. It's soft, at times it's lyrical, and at times it's very sparse. You don't need a lot of words to tell a quiet story.
Do it together so never you fear. It's a handy little way to help you kick into gear. You're amazing, exciting. Look out, 'cause you're writing 12 by 12.
12 manuscripts.
12 by 12.
12 picture books.
12 by 12 this year.